Hey Siri, view my bill.
Your current bill is $1 million. Please remit payment as soon as possible. Thanks.
Honey! Have you been streaming Twitch again? Hi, welcome to Can a Spader Christmas. So this is a special episode for this channel. It's a little out of the norm. The channel really started from me looking for some information on computerized LED Christmas lights and just having to go to a bunch of different places to find the information. Currently, I'm running a series on building a Tesla-style DIY Powerwall out of recycled laptop batteries. So the subject of this video centers around what I do for a living. I write software for Apple devices at a global digital innovation agency in downtown Austin called Mutual Mobile. Long story short, I was asked to write an application demonstrating how one of our clients might use the Siri voice assistant in their app. It involves using some new features in iOS 12 that Apple opened up to developers, and since I enjoy learning new things, I looked forward to the challenge. Now, even if you're not interested in application development, I encourage you to stick around because you may know or come across somebody that needs our services and you can point them our way. I'll start off with a brand new application in Xcode, choosing File, New Project, iOS. Single view app is fine. Hit Next. I'll give it a name. Something very creative like Siri Intent Demo. Hit Next. I'll just save this on my desktop just to make it easy. Let's run it to make sure it works. Nothing exciting yet, but it works, okay? Now this is not technically required at this point, but I'm going to need this in the future, so I'm going to go ahead and add a shared framework to the project. Now this is just a group and it created a folder and that's it. I need to add a new target, so down here click the plus button, which pulls up a bunch of templates to choose from. I want to use the Cocoa Touch framework. Click Next. I'll name it, again, something very creative. How about Intent Kit? Click Finish. This adds a new framework target to our project. Now, since we're working on both the app and the framework at the same time, it would be nice to compile any changes in the framework automatically when we compile the app. So click on the app target and look at the Build Phases tab. If you're following along, Xcode should have put the framework in the Embed Framework section and the Link Binary with Library section, and it should have included it in the target dependencies. If you don't see it in those three areas, click the plus button and just add it to those sections. If it compiles, it means I didn't mess anything up. Okay. The framework, even though it doesn't have anything in it yet, is now built and is part of the project. Now I'll add some code to Intent Kit by choosing File, New File. This will be a Swift file. If the framework is not selected, make sure to check that and don't include it in the app. This will be an NS User Activity extension, so I'll call it NS User Activity plus Intent Data. Hit Create. In the interest of time, I'm going to paste this in. It just extends NS User Activity, adding a static type and statically returning a pre-configured NS User Activity. I have an error on suggested invocation phrase because I need to import an extension in the intents framework. Okay. I need to create some UI for this app. It's pretty basic stuff just to demonstrate the functionality. I'll run through it real quick and then explain it after I'm done. In the main storyboard, I embedded the view controller in a navigation controller. I put a stack view over the entire view and added 2 UI views in there. The top view is just a container for a button. The bottom view will expand to fill the space all the way to the bottom. For the code in the view controller, I have this action that is called when the button is pressed, and it just navigates to the billing screen. Since we could be calling this from the app delegate from a restore, I added pop to root to make sure we start from a good known state, and then it just does a push. In a real app, we'd have some other class responsible for navigation we could call, but it's all manual in this demo. For the billing view controller, I've implemented it all in code. It just has a container view and a button. You can initialize it with an NSUser activity, which I'll use a little bit later, and then I call setup views from view.load. This is the Siri shortcut button that I'll cover in just a minute. Setup views just adds and configures the subviews and then calls add constraints. The button handler creates an intent shortcut with a pre-configured NSUser activity and passes that to an INUI add voice shortcut view controller, which is part of the Intents UI framework. This allows a user to create a Siri shortcut directly from within your app instead of having to go into settings. You also need some delegate methods, but these are basically boilerplate, presenting and dismissing. So if we run this now, we can see our awesome app. If I hit the View My Bill button, it goes to the beautiful billing screen I've created. And if I press the Add Shortcut button, the Siri screen is presented, and I could add a Siri shortcut. But I'm not going to do that just yet because I want to put something in here that actually makes sense. So I want to create some kind of view. It won't be totally polished, but it will at least give you an idea of what the screen is for. Hey, it's a demo. Again, a view in code only. It's a simple view showing the amount due and the due date. A little eye candy for the background. It'll become clearer why I did it this way in just a little bit. Now, to get the app to navigate to this screen from Siri, we need to do a couple of things. In App Delegate, implement the Application Continue Restoration Handler function. It checks to see if the NSUser activity is one we handle, and if so, we call the restoration handler on the main view controller. The main view controller restoration handler just navigates to the proper screen based on the NSUser activity. I only have one now, but I'll add more later. I'll bring up Siri in the simulator, and it goes to the billing screen. So that is shortcuts. It's fairly easy to implement. The main requirement is that your application architecture supports navigation to a particular screen, no matter where the user currently is or where they were when they backgrounded the app. Now, if your app is not set up that way, we'd be happy to help you with that. Now, developers have had access to a few of Siri's intents like messaging, lists of notes, payments, workouts, and more for a while now, but in iOS 12, Apple added custom intents. It's still not conversational Siri, but it is one step closer. To add custom intents to the app, we need an intents definition file. When we compile the app, Xcode generates intent classes based on the configuration in this definition file. We want the app to be able to access the classes, but we only want the classes in our framework. To grant that access, with the intent definition file selected, Go over to the right side of the screen, add the file to the main application target, but change the option to No Generated Classes. We only want the auto-generated classes in the Intent Kit framework. Down in the lower left, click the plus button and choose New Intent. I'll call it View My Bill. Now, keep this short yet meaningful, because you don't want to have a phrase something like, "Hey, voice assistant, if I was to ask you to show me the amount on my current cable bill, what would your response be?" I mean, you could, but your users probably wouldn't like that. 3 to 4 words tops. I'll change the category to View. Add a title and description. In a real application, you'll want to add a default image, and for this intent, user confirmation is not required, so I'll leave it unchecked. I'm not going to take any input parameters for this intent, and make sure supports background execution is checked. Now on the response, this is where I can add some values, perhaps the actual amount, the actual due date. Now for this demo, I'm not going to use those. I'll just enter text for the failure message and for the success message. Now I'll create the Siri extensions by clicking on the plus button. Choose the Intents extension and press Next. I'm also including a UI extension, so this will actually create 2 new targets when I hit Finish. Xcode will ask if you want to activate the new scheme. You don't need to yet, so just hit Cancel. Okay, hindsight being 2020, maybe call these Siri intents instead of getting real specific, because the extensions themselves can handle multiple intents. There's no need to have a separate extension for each intent. Before we get too far along, we want to make sure this intents definition file is in both of the app extensions we just created, and since the classes are in the framework, we want no generated classes for both of these. Also, we want to add Intent Kit as a target dependency of the extension and link the framework to the extension binary. And do this for the UI extension as well. The App Store requires the presence of the Siri entitlement for iOS or watchOS apps containing Intents app extensions that handle any Siri requests other than shortcut requests. So click the app target and choose the Capabilities tab. Scroll down until you find Siri and turn it on. Verify that the app now has the Siri entitlement added to the project and that Siri is set to yes. Add a new file to the shared library. It's a Swift file. Press Next. Make sure the target is Intent Kit. I'll name it View My Bill Intent Handler. Hit Create. This class will conform to the View My Bill Intent Handling protocol that's auto-generated, and there are 2 methods, confirm and handle. In the Intents extension, here's the code for the intent handler. Currently, we make sure the intent is one that we handle and return the appropriate handler. I'll add more here later. In the UI extension, I've replaced the boilerplate in Intent View Controller. Configure View is the method that will get called, and it can get called multiple times to configure different parts of the UI. In my implementation, I'm checking to see if the intent handling status is success, and the intent response is an instance of View My Bill Intent Response, one of the auto-generated classes. I'll spin up my custom view, add it to the View Controller's view, add some constraints and force a layout, then call the completion. You must always exit by calling the completion. To test this, go up and select the UI extension scheme, and to keep from having to talk to Siri every time you run this, you can edit the scheme and add your phrase. You may have noticed a couple of warnings when I compiled this. If you click on the Intent Kit target and go to Build Settings, search for the Require Only App Extension Safe API and change it to Yes to clear the warning. This lets the app extension know the framework is safe to use in the extension. One final task is to go into the plist for the app and make sure the NS user activity types includes our View My Bill intent. Also, check the plist in both of the app extensions. If it isn't there, you'll need to add it. All right, we're ready to run this and have Siri show our UI inside Siri. Wait a minute. It jumped into the app. What's going on? This is one of the main reasons for this entire video. I spent a ton of time searching why is this jumping into the app instead of running my intent handlers in the extensions. I couldn't find an answer to it, so I opened up a ticket with developer technical support and I got my answer. The problem was that when I first created the shortcut, I used an NS user activity. Now that I want to use Siri intents, I need to change it to use an intent. In order to tell Siri to use the intent, I need to go in and delete my existing Siri shortcut and recreate it with the intent.
Siri Intent Demo says, your current bill is $1 million. Please remit payment as soon as possible. Thanks.
Huh. I guess my numbers are off a little there. No, that response is just the text response I originally added to the intent. Realistically, I need to add properties to this response so that it's dynamic. Go into the response screen for this intent and add an amount property, and let's set it to a currency amount. I'll change the success message to use that new property.
Siri Intent Demo says, your current bill is $34.56.00000000000001. Please remit payment as soon as possible.
Siri, come on! I spent way too much time trying to figure that one out, and then I thought, well, okay, let's just try a properly formatted string that we would probably get from the server anyway.
Siri Intent Demo says, your current bill is $34.56. Please remit payment as soon as possible. Thanks.
In order to save some time, I've gone ahead and added two more intents. I've got the Pay My Bill intent, and the response has the amount in it, and I've included the amount property in the success template. And then I have a View My Usage intent just to show that you can do animation inside the Siri UI. And it has a response with properties of month, used data, max data, and a failure reason. So if you do get a failure, you can return the failure reason, and the success template uses the rest of the properties to compose the message. I also created a usage view in the shared library. It's just a simple view with a bar graph animation. I created this send payment intent handler using the Pay My Bill intent. And I'm just naming it different to show there's no correlation between the intent being used, but in a real app, it might be better to name these similarly. Your call. And then I have the View My Bill intent handler which is similar in structure but uses different intents and intent responses. Here is the Pay Bill View controller. It's very similar to the Bill View controller. There's probably opportunities to dry out some of this code, but it's a demo. The only real difference is the Siri shortcut button handler uses a different intent. Same with the Usage View controller. It uses the View My Usage intent. In the Intent Extensions intent handler, I changed that to include all three intents, and in the Intent UI Extensions intent view controller, in Configure View, I added blocks for the two new intents. Now for the View My Bill intent response and the View My Usage intent response, those will be in the success state. But the Pay My Bill intent response will be in the ready state since it requires user confirmation. Alright, final demo time. Here is my awesome app. I've shown View My Bill where it just shows an amount and a due date. Pay My Bill shows the same view and has a button to start the payment process. And then to demonstrate some animation inside Siri, I created the View My Usage screen. It's a simple bar graph with a really long animation. So that's the app. Now I'll show you what it looks like from Siri. View My Bill.
Siri Intent Demo says, your current bill is $34.56. Please remit payment as soon as possible. Thanks.
Pay My Bill.
Ready to send with Siri Intent Demo?
Yes.
Okay. Send. Siri Intent Demo says, your payment of $34.56 has been sent. Thanks.
Pay My Bill.
Ready to send with Siri Intent Demo?
No.
Okay, I won't.
View My Usage.
Siri Intent Demo says, you have used 20 out of a maximum of 30 gigabytes for April.
Some of you may be wondering why I put these stupid little tags in front of the OS log statements. If you've ever looked at a log unfiltered, it's just scrolling like mad and it's very easy to miss something you're looking for. By adding the tag, I can filter on it and see the message no matter what process it's coming from. I'd remove them before shipping the app. Might want to write yourself a little note. If you have any questions about what I've shown here, don't hesitate to leave a comment below. I will post this code out on GitHub and leave a link to it in the description. If you have an app you'd like for us to work on, head over to mutualmobile.com and contact our sales folks. Serious inquiries only, please. Just tell them you saw this Canaspader guy on YouTube. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Now, I shot an email. So I got 6 of these, and so I got 5 of these when I started relaxing a little bit, and then BAM!